we are going to be talking integers on the coordinate plane. Okay, so Tuesday we talked about integers as a set of whole numbers to the left and to the right of 0 on the number line and including 0. And they're whole numbers. Okay. When we talk about a coordinate plane, you guys are used to a coordinate plane that only has your x-axis going to the right and the y-axis going up. Okay, that's only the one quadrant because it only deals with positive coordinates. But now that we have integers, we're going to extend our coordinate plane and extend our x and y axis, bless you, so that we now have 4 different quadrants. The horizontal line is still our x-axis, and our vertical line is still our y-axis. Now, I always remember my y-axis is up and down because the tail of the y goes up and down. So that's how I remember that the y is the one that goes up and down. Alright, so before we get back to actually graphing any points on this coordinate plane, we've got to take a step back and talk about some different things that go along with the coordinate plane. The first thing is the ordered pair. The ordered pair is a set of 2 numbers that name a location on the coordinate plane. And you have an x-coordinate and then a y-coordinate. So you guys remember, in order to graph a point on the coordinate plane, you start at the origin and you go over first and then up. Well, now with integers, we're still going to go over, but instead of just moving right, we may also move left. Okay? What kind of numbers are going to make us move left on the x-axis? Chad?
Negative.
The negative numbers. Okay? So I have positive numbers on the right side of my y-axis, and I have negative numbers on the left side. So if I have a negative x-coordinate, I'll move left first from the origin. If I have a positive x-coordinate, I'll move right first. And as you can probably guess, the numbers that tell us to move up will be the positive numbers on the y-coordinate. And the numbers that tell us to move down will be the negative numbers. Negative integers. So now we have 4 different places we can graph points. Before you only had one little section, but now you have 4 sections. And each of these is called a quadrant, like they mentioned in our BrainPop video. Okay, it's one section of the coordinate plane. Now these quadrants are numbered, and as you go along further in your math career, they'll talk about points in certain quadrants. Okay. The first quadrant is a quadrant you guys are used to working with. Quadrant 1 is both positive x value, positive y value. Positives, that's right. Now quadrant 2 is we're going counterclockwise around our plane. Quadrant 2 has a negative x value, but still a positive y value. Okay, so here's 1, here's 2. This one down here is quadrant 3. And it has a negative x value and a negative y value. That's the negative quadrant. And then the last quadrant over here is my 4th quadrant, or quadrant 4. And let's see, is x positive or negative? Positive. And what about y? Positive or negative? Negative. Okay, so they're opposites here. Quadrant 2 and quadrant 4 are opposite signs. All right. So, basically, it's the same thing. We start at the origin. And then depending on what our x coordinate is, you move left or right along the x-axis. Then from your x-coordinate, you move up or down along the y-axis. And you plot your point. So I'm going to move these notes up a little bit, and we're going to actually graph a few numbers, a few points. Wait, I have a lot of space here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a big graph. No. And it doesn't really matter how many numbers you get on your Cartesian plane or your coordinate plane, as they called it.
How many numbers are
I think I have 6 on one side, 5 on the other, 6 and 5. But it doesn't really matter because they extend on forever in all directions. But you know your origin is 0, 0. So let's first plot point A at, we'll start with 3, 2. Which quadrant will this point be in? Both of my coordinates are positive, so which quadrant is it going to be in? Reese?
like the x-axis, right?
Well, if we go over up here, is it going to be in quadrant 1, 2, 3, or 4?
1.
It's going to be in quadrant 1. Okay, so I start at my origin and I go over 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3, and then I go up 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to plot my point A. Okay. All right, let's say point B. It's going to be negative 1, negative 4. Which quadrant will point B be in? Jordan? Quadrant 3, because both of my coordinates are negative. So I go left 1 and down 4. And there's point B. All right. Let's do negative 2, positive 1. So if my x-coordinate is negative, but my y-coordinate is positive, which quadrant will I be in? Aubrey? Well, this is quadrant 1. This one?
Yeah.
Quadrant 2. So I'll be in quadrant 2. I'll go left 2 and up 1. Here's C. And we have to put one more point so we end up in our last quadrant. How would I end up in my last quadrant to be in quadrant 4? What do I need, Tyler?
We need a negative number on the x.
Well, if I go negative, I'll be going left.
So it's positive.
Right, positive x and a negative y. So let's go positive 4, negative 3. So I go to the right 4 and down 3. 1, 2, 3. And I plot my last point. Not too difficult, is it? No. You just have, now you have to identify, looking at your coordinates, you'll have to see if you can identify which quadrant it's in, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you have to make sure you're moving the correct direction, whether you're moving right or left or up or down, depending on what sign you have, whether you have a positive coordinate or a negative coordinate. Okay, Aubrey?
For the workbook, are you working with the
No.
But it's a day